Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, our next session, Global Capability Centers Talent, Propelling Innovation and Value Creation. Now, developing and nurturing talent is and will continue to be one of the critical challenges. With this great opportunity in front of GCCs to transform into innovation and market expansion centers, what are the talent strategies that will enable this transformation? How do you get the workforce to proactively look out for opportunities and build the mindset to solve problems? To answer some of these questions, please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Yogesh Kumar Bhatt, Executive Vice President and Business Head, StackRoute, in discussion with Dinesh Chawla, Managing Director, JPMorgan Chase and Company, Sudeep Ralhan, Vice President, People at Walmart, Global Tech India. Over to you, Dr. Bhatt.
Thanks a lot, Dilip. Good morning, everyone. First of all, a very, very warm welcome to my fellow panelists, Sudeep and Dinesh here, and to all of you in the audience today, this morning. Welcome to Confluence and welcome to this session, which is a very interesting session on GCCs focused on propelling innovation and value creation. As you can see, in my fellow panelists, I have two very, very experienced professionals coming from two very different GCCs. So I'm sure they have a lot of experience from which they will share with you things which will be of very, very valuable. Just to give a brief background on why this session, we all know that global capability centers have taken a center stage today as the real capability centers driving innovation and transformation from India for the world. If I just look at the NESCOM data last time, there are more than 1,400 GCCs in India today, and they are employing almost 1.4 million people directly. And the last year, they contributed about $36 billion in terms of the gross revenues. So it's a very, very large setup, obviously, in GCCs, as against, say, what we saw 2 decades back. Another important thing, as I mentioned, about 2 decades, when GCCs, originally by the name captive centers, started about 2 decades back, it was all about cost saving. It's all about cost arbitrage. How do you get some of the engineering or the back office work done from India? We have come a long way from there today, and GCCs operate as innovation hubs and centers of excellence. And the kind of people they obviously need to propel this innovation, value creation, and transformation. They need highly skilled people in digital technologies and into the business functions. And obviously, therefore, there is a war for talent, which is always on. And for that, GCCs need to be very, very attractive to the top talent. And also, they need to invest in creating the right kind of talent. That's the large backdrop. We at StackRoute, we have been very fortunate to work with some of the top GCCs in India, partnering with them in various kind of learning and skilling initiatives. In that context, we also released a white paper recently called Learning Reimagined, Catalyzing GCC Growth. In this white paper, we get into the why and how of the learning interventions as to how we can drive learning outcomes. Why is about learning outcomes, how is about how do you go about doing that. And we have created very impactful frameworks. In fact, we call that framework as impact, by which we engage with GCCs to create value for them. Now, coming back to the topic today, that's about how talent propels innovation and value creation in GCCs. I will start with my questions to Dinesh and Sudeep very soon. But before that, to all of you in the audience today, as you may not be very familiar with the platform right now, this being one of the early sessions. But there is on the right-hand side on the bottom corner, there is a Q&A link. Please, as and when you think of a question, type your question there, and we will get it here. As a moderator, it will be my pleasure to ask that question to my fellow panelists today. With that brief context, let me start with my first question. And my first question is to you, Dinesh. Just to warm up initially, can you just talk about how your organization is helping drive innovation and global transformation?
Thank you, Yogesh. I think as all of you probably are aware, financial services is changing rapidly. All of us talk about digitization, competition from fintechs and their evolution, machine learning, AI deployment, regulatory landscape, which is changing across the globe. And for large legacy banks, there's always this constant battle between legacy and new and how you evolve, isn't it? So from our point of view, the GCCs for JPMorgan Chase, we play a very, very critical and serious role. People talk about this concept of evolution versus revolution, which is we were going through a small, steady phase, and all GCCs went through that for 10, 15 years. And then in the last couple of years, we're suddenly seeing a revolution where the pace of change is faster, our integration is better, and therefore the contribution that GCCs can drive is significantly higher. And I think so where I see a lot of impact happening is ability to run large global programs out of a variety of locations. And so as we talk more and more digitization, more and more focus on data and analytics and machine learning, there's a little bit of democratization of how programs can be carried out. They need not be owned and run exclusively out of the headquarters. They can be run from a variety of locations wherever the right talent is positioned. So we are running large global programs for the organization, continuously driving incremental improvement in things. There is given the background of all the GCCs on process innovation, as well as controls and taking global responsibilities. I think all that has continued and has contributed to the strength of our contributions. What I believe has helped is that in the last few years, there's a lot of focus on reaching scale and size and capabilities. And so over time, as things have evolved, more and more complexity has come the way of the global captive or global capability centers. And that complexity of operation has now reached a scale. And that scale just propels you into doing new things. There's also a very, very strong integration with business. A lot of global roles and senior roles are now played out of the global capability centers, and that kind of helps a lot. And there's significant talent upgrade. I think one of the things that we see is that there's a significant energy that you see within the GCCs that not only helps us drive bottoms-up innovation and continuous improvement, but it also supercharges many large initiatives with organization-wide impact. I think that talent upgrade in the last few years has significantly helped us. So I see a very well-rounded contribution across a variety of work streams, making very big impact across the banking sector.
Yeah, thanks, Dinesh. Thanks for that answer. And of course, as you said, it's not a single answer. It's a well-rounded approach you have there. But it was interesting to hear about democratization, and that I think from a GCC perspective, I've been hearing about that. Lots of decision being centralized earlier, and that at times, of course, was hindering the aspirations of the GCCs here. So good to hear about that. With that, let me move over to Sudeep. Sudeep, you may have, yeah. So same question to you, Sudeep, but then the context is so different. And Walmart, in fact, many of us here, and at least from my generation, whenever first we had visited the US, one thing we will remember is the first shopping experience is Walmart, which was so different from what we had seen anything in India at those days. And Walmart was pretty much unchallenged. But today, of course, your challenges from very, very unlikely players who one never heard those days, like Amazon and stuff like that, right? And interesting to see what Walmart is doing. So just same question, from India GCC perspective, what is the role in driving innovations and transformation for Walmart?
Well, you're right. First of all, thank you for having me here and inviting me. You're right. I mean, Walmart is in the throes of transformation for the last 7-8 years. And if you've been reading about us, you will see that a lot of the conversations and updates recently in Walmart is really about how we are transforming into an omni-channel retailer and offering, seamless online to offline experiences for our customers. And if you read even some of the recent press, right, the kind of work that's being done around last mile delivery, in-home delivery, drones, fulfillment, even the new metaverse concept of shopping, it is really being fueled by technology. So we are kind of really proud to say that we are today truly a human-led, tech-empowered organization. And that tech empowerment is really coming from the technology organization, and India plays a huge role in that, right? Our mission is really to power Walmart to lead the next retail disruption. And we are doing it by focusing on innovating at speed and then creating business impact. And all of these three, I think, is stuff that even Dinesh alluded to, right? Because earlier, there was always a slightly limited view of what technology centers or GCCs could do. But today, the demand is really for them to be holistic partners in the transformation that the organization is driving. And you can only do that when you're focusing in our mind on all of these three things, right? Building speed and agility, really innovating, and then finally creating business impact. And today, the kind of workforce that we have today, very wide range of skills, doing a very wide range of work, but all very closely plugged into what the top business and strategic priorities of Walmart are, right? So that's really the scenario that's happening today. And it's interesting to see the evolution of the industry as a whole, because it is no longer homogeneous in any way, right? It is very diverse. The kind of talent we hire today is very diverse. The kind of talent we lose, for example, is very diverse. It's really interesting to see the play of so many factors coming in together and making it a very vibrant ecosystem.
Yeah, thanks for that response, Sudeep. And of course, definitely it will be very interesting to see the diverse talent. But personally, for me, it will be very interesting to see some of your drones if I come over to your place one of these days.
Looking forward to that.
Okay. Yeah. So coming back to this theme again. Dinesh, with that introduction, I just wanted to ask you, getting into, as you said, there's a host of things you are doing, right? But if I were to say, if you focus on the talent part and look at what are the two top talent strategies that your organization is driving today with the next 1 year or 2 year perspective, then what would they be?
I believe the most important one, because the landscape is evolving so quickly, is keeping just abreast of technology and upskilling yourself to ensure that you're always on the right roadmap. Obviously, things will keep changing, but what we do is we expect it of our leadership to develop a deep understanding of technology and tools landscape, so that we can make very informed investments in upskilling. Because you never know, like we keep having this debate on whether SAS will be the winner or R will be the winner or Python will be the winner or something else will come along and things will change continuously. And so you kind of look at all these things and say, how do you make informed investments and take the right bets so that you're ready in a fast evolving technology landscape. Obviously, you may need to pivot every now and then, but it's very important to take these bets. However, once you've done that exercise, which I think is the ownership of the leadership to ensure that we are making the right bets, then ensuring that there's excitement about learning and being motivated by being the first or being the best at technical skills, and the focus on learnability of our team, I think is a very key differentiator. So we focus on that regularly. I believe our younger workforce is a key strength for us in this area because they are very excited about learning. But to ensure that you're always keeping that excitement going and turning that into outcomes so that you're are able to evolve the organization and help the organization transform into a new technology landscape, I think is very critical. So that's kind of big focus for the GCCs. The second thing I believe is actually more stable, strong, mature leadership. And so our investments in leadership around learning the business and its drivers, so moving away from focus on saying, I need to learn the process and I need to do it in a very excellent manner. You need to start learning about how does the overall business run? What are the key profit drivers? What are the key customer experience drivers? What are the key efficiency drivers? And then take a more holistic approach to their own roles and outcomes that they drive, and just opening the eyes to a broader set of possibilities than just running their processes, I think is a key upgrade that we look for regularly. And that again comes with its own skill set needs. It needs a skills to influence, a skill to be a broad owner, skill to be able to gel in a global team. And those are kind of the skills we invest in for our senior leaders. But truly the landscape has evolved so much that you define your own possibilities. And therefore, I think strong, stable leadership is very important. And the maturity of that leadership drives outcomes, which are way beyond what you could put on paper in planning stages. And so it's something that I believe puts us in a very exciting talent landscape right now.
Great to hear that, Dinesh, and it resonates what my thinking and of course, our thinking in the white paper as well is that one of the key aspects which you did mention, of course, technology is important, and every organization will have to, on their context, decide to, as you said, bet on something or the other, because technology choices obviously are far too many. And not only if they are far too many, they change, right? You were talking about this R versus Python versus whatever, right? So 5 years back, it was an easy choice, probably. Maybe 7 years back, not 5, it was R. Then suddenly there's a confusion, and then suddenly something looks very obvious, but before you blink your eyes, that obviousness leads. So obviously organizations need to take bets, make the right investments, because shifting technology obviously does take time, because the deep skills get married to a technology. But at the same time, it was interesting to hear about the focus on leadership, where it is about defining your own possibilities. That's something which I really resonate with. With that, let me get to Sudeep with my next question. So if I were to say there are skill sets, there are technical skill sets, which are, some of them, of course, Dinesh talked about, but in Walmart, they may be different. But then there is a mindset. As of today, if you look at Walmart, and again, as a GCC playing as you mentioned, a holistic partner role, which one seems to be more critical and why?
I think before we get deep into that, we need to spend a little bit of time to think thoughtfully about the context, right? One, all of us are seeing and hearing, every organization and every progressive organization is going through tremendous transformation and relying a lot on their technology teams and the India teams to do a lot more. But that definitely ups the bar. It increases the opportunities, but it also ups the bar, right? And raises expectations. The second is the pandemic, right? And the changes it has brought in ways of working. So people are now been working from home, at least for us, for the last 2 years at a stretch, right? And people have been hired, they've been onboarded, integrated, and done all of that completely virtually. And that, again, while it creates a lot of opportunities for flexibility and so on, but it also creates its own set of pressures. And then there is the entire turbulent tech talent ecosystem. and the FOMO that so many people feel, that if they are not interviewing with 5 companies at the same time or having 3 offers in hand, there is a feel that they're not doing something right. So, if you think about all of this, it puts tremendous pressure on people, right? And think about the enormous amount of pressure that everyone across levels is feeling. And that kind of got reflected. We did this event around careers and competencies, etc. And one of the components of that was speed coaching, right? Where we had these speed coaching conversations with people. And it was so interesting to see the diverse range of conversations I had and my peers had, because there were conversations ranging from, this is where I am, this is where I want to go, how do I get there, to I really don't know what I'm doing and where I want to go, and guide me along the way. So I think the answer to your question probably lies in both, right? And more, right, to what Dinesh said. And there are 3 parts which people are focusing on. There's obviously deep skilling, right? If there's one thing that the last 2 years have taught us, it is that people who invest in themselves and truly upgrade their skills in every form are the ones who will remain ahead of the curve and remain the favored ones in the market. So investment in development is at an all-time high, right? I mean, we thought, for example, that after working to virtual working and with all the stresses going on in the pandemic, the uptake on training and learning programs, etc., will reduce. It's shot up dramatically. People are genuinely investing in themselves. The second part to that is what you said about mindsets, right? The closer you are to the business, the kind of transformation and impact that you want to create, you have to build deeper business acumen, right? You have to know the business of your business, and you have to really understand that with a lot of depth. Understand the customer, be really customer focused as much as possible. And the second is the mindset is really related to yourself, that it's not just about skills. I cannot stay in one place and be passive and do certain things and then allow things to happen to me. I have to make them happen for myself. So how do you take charge of career? How do you take advantage of the holistic ecosystem you're surrounded with and build a diverse portfolio of experiences? And then it's leadership. I mean, leaders are being, the entire model of leadership has been turned on its head in a good way. So leaders are now truly understanding what it means to be thoughtful, to be empathetic, to be focused on things like well-being and inclusion, because those are really the leaders that are winning the respect and are being able to demonstrate agility in today's time. So I would say all these 3 aspects are equally critical and interdependent for both people as well as organizations to be successful in the future.
Thanks, Sudeep, for that very involved one. And of course, lots of us relate to this, people being in a continuously 5 interview in parallel. And of course, there's a lot of peer pressure, which probably is playing there, that, especially in the younger population. And very difficult to even think what mindset that will put a person in. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure in that situation. But your point about, we do not allow things to happen to you, I think that's a very powerful point. With that, I see some questions are coming on the audience side, and let me get to that. We have a question from Mr. Rajendra Pawar. Specifically has asked you for Dinesh. What is the biggest people-related concern that keeps you awake?
Yeah, I think there is from a people point of view, obviously we have many tactical issues that, like, we have attrition challenges and we have challenges on skilling. But what I worry about the most in terms of people and their potential and the organization's ability to drive the most of what we can. What people can bring to the table. So how do you ensure that we are an organization that's vibrant, that's a learning organization, that's an organization that is able to benefit from the knowledge of or capabilities of or empathy of each and every individual, and therefore the ecosystem is stronger as an outcome. I think if we are able to achieve that, then I think outcomes take care of themselves, whether their retention rates or hiring times or training skills, and those happen. So the thing that I worry about the most and where I want to spend most of time is to build the right enablers and ensure that, and it's difficult because we are growing rapidly. I mean, GCCs are growing at a very rapid pace. We are hiring new capabilities. And to set that right ecosystem and culture while you're growing and bringing so much new talent on board, I think is something that I spend most of my time and I worry about the most. Saying if we don't do this the right way, we will lose a lot of opportunity if we don't deliver this.
Yeah, Dinesh, I mean, very interesting. And knowing you for a couple of years, I can relate to that, that's what must be keeping you awake. In fact, some of these has probably kept me also awake by you sometime in the late evenings, right? So I can relate to that, absolutely. We have more questions from the audience. Let me take the next one. That's from Mona Kocher. And the question is, and let me ask this to you, Sudeep, how do you constantly keep enhancing the learning journeys of your employees? And it says that in my organization, I've just started setting up structures to amalgamate learning in performance metrics. The challenge is to create a pull approach. So basically, how do you create that pull approach? I think that's the question. So Sudeep, over to you.
No, it's a great question. And I think all of us are struggling with it. I mean, this is one thing that I have, I've really thought about very seriously for the last several years with my teams, right? And I think the answer really lies in the question itself. How do you create a pull approach? So if you think of employees as consumers and think of ourselves as brands, then how are we going to create a differentiated experience for the consumers? How do you address that? A lot of traditional learning programs, techniques, methodologies are geared towards a certain demographic and are not necessarily as flexible as the new generation wants them to be, because today there is no one single demographic. We have very diverse talent pools. So I think really thinking about our employees as consumers and then doing something that's clutter breaking. So a couple of examples, right? I referred to this earlier when I spoke about speed coaching, but speed coaching was actually part of a 9-day event focused on careers and competency building and learning, doing many different things. There were panel discussions, there were one-on-one speed coaching conversations, there were interesting workshops, there were leaders speaking about stuff, there were immersive sessions on specific technologies, etc. But this sort of event-based approach, modular, bite-sized things to kind of take deep into, I think all of these things really worked very well, and we had fabulous participation, fabulous feedback, etc. So I'm just giving as an example. I'm not saying everyone needs to do the same thing, but I guess just thinking about how can we break through the clutter, how can we replace our traditional monthly learning calendars with something that is a little bit more unique and calls out. I mean, you have to break through the clutter. Our employees are constantly on the phone through the day. They are looking at social media. How are you going to create mind space in the middle of that? So I think being a little bit more innovative there helps. And the second bit that really I feel makes a difference is linking learning and investment in development to performance and careers. I mean, if we are really smart about it, that should be an element of a performance conversation every quarter to say, what have you done to develop yourself? And what kind of investment have you made? How have you taken advantage of the opportunities? And organizations should have, should follow it up with a clear guideline to say that if you haven't, then maybe you do not see the kind of rewards or careers that you may ideally desire. So I feel these two things can really make a difference in creating the pull approach.
Thanks, Sudeep. Yeah, indeed. Of course, it goes on both sides, creating better experience as well as, of course, how learners are self-motivated and, acting on that side. Now, with that, of course, we have very little time left, but we have two more questions, and I will ask them those questions quickly once. And I'll just shorten that for you. So there's a question here, and let me ask this question to you again, Sudeep. How are you enabling your current leaders to appreciate importance to operate as influencers and innovative thought leaders? So I'm sure that's very important for you. What do you do for that?
I think the first is by setting the right expectations. And that really comes through a couple of things. One is through the right org design. So we all need to get comfortable working in matrix environments, for example, and we need to be able to clearly articulate the expectations that come from leaders in that environment. And the crux of that expectation is leading with influence. So sometimes the best way to learn is actually to experience it. And by consciously putting some of our emerging leaders into situations where they don't necessarily have a lot of authority, but they have to drive with influence, and you're constantly giving them feedback, and their careers and the rewards are linked to it. I think that's possibly the best way for leaders to internalize that and learn it. And then, of course, you supplement it with the right kind of exposure and learning as well. So one of the things that we do, and I'm sure most organizations do, is really provide mentors to leaders like that, because this is a tricky environment and with more ambiguity to navigate it. And therefore, finding mentors who have done the same thing and have progressed in their careers and have experiences to share can make a lot of difference. I mean, just knowing that you're not alone and you're not the first one who's facing this journey and so on, that makes a big difference. And second is to align a lot of our investment in leadership around that. We have to, expand the range of skills that we are investing in our leaders for. And I see that more and more, thankfully, across many organizations and our external partners, that leading with influence is becoming a very critical topic where people are using innovative methods to bring learning to the table on that, right? Whether it be HBR case studies, whether it be peer networking sessions or mentoring circles, all of that can help in building that level of thought leadership and leadership with influence.
Thanks, Sudeep. And last question goes to you, Dinesh, here. Again, I'm just kind of modifying one of the questions and shortening that. Looking at next 2-3 years, I think somebody's asking about 5 is too long a period in my view to take a view. But for next 2 to 3 years, how do you go about, what are the priorities in building a talent pipeline from where you can draw fresh talent?
Yeah, that's always a big question. We're talking about significant transformation focus, significant technology focus, and ability to drive large global programs. And so it's a very significant challenge in terms of skill set. However, one great thing that's happened in the last few years, and I know historically there was a very significant focus on saying we should hire people who know this. So we should hire people who've done this before. We are in an age where nobody's done this before. So it's important that you hire for the right mindset, for the right ability to pick up new things. And therefore, a lot of people focus on kind of going to campus hires and even returning Indians, and still kind of trying to get a mix of those. But one thing that I find very exciting is that there is earlier there used to be GCCs working with global organizations. There were local organizations in the same industry, and there was alignment of activity was not very high because Indian banking system, for example, was data poor till 10, 15 years ago, and we didn't have a credit bureau. So what has happened is as India has evolved and the Indian local industry has evolved significantly and leapfrogged many of the generations that the Western world went through, I think there's a strong talent pipeline that both. So I hire significantly from local banks now, which was not the case earlier. I know local banks hire significantly from me now, which was not the case earlier. So what has happened is that it's kind of India has evolved and I think new avenues for building talent pipelines, training new people, and ensuring that you have the right. I keep stressing on the word ecosystem. We just because it's not about just getting the person and saying this person knows everything and we should put this person in this role or this chair. I think it's about ensuring that you get the right ecosystem, and the pipeline will flow in from a variety of sources, but the ecosystem will enable each and every person to contribute. And I think that's what I am focused on. There's a bunch of focus we have on not hiring people who've done this before. really bringing in fresh mindsets and fresh thinking, and getting to kind of first level, first principles problem solving, and being open to counterintuitive solutions, being dispassionate about what you know, but be passionate about solving the problem. And that's a completely different way of looking at things. And I think that demands that you get fresh talent and fresh skills. So hiring from different industries. And I think so I see a bunch of possibility in opening up talent pipelines from a variety of sources.
Thanks, Dinesh. And it's very interesting to hear. I mean, this was something unheard of just a few years back, that I think GCCs were operating in a different talent base of their own. So today, the fact that, people are hiring from you into local Indian banks, and you are hiring from local Indian banks itself says that we are really at the global stage now. So thanks a lot. I think I had a I go out of this panel with more knowledge than I entered with. So thanks a lot for sharing. I'm sure our audience found it very useful. Given that we do not have any time left, and I'm getting those prompts as well. So let me again thank both of you, Sudeep and Dinesh, for participating here and sharing, from your very long and experience as leaders in your companies, and of course, in the industry. With that, let me hand it back again to Dilip.